Hi everybody, Joe Conkley in the shop. That's right, Facebook in the shop live is back. We've been on a hiatus here, doing all the things that we do here, like fixing guitars and selling guitars and appraising guitars. That's what we've been doing. But now we've carved out a little bit of time, which we hope to continue every other Thursday through the near future. So you'll have to adjust your Facebook calendars to every other Thursday at 3 o'clock, but just ask Facebook to notify you when In the Shop is on and you'll be all set. We're going to do a shop tour today since we haven't been around for a while, just see what's happening. For starters, I'm working on this lovely Collings guitar. It is a Pete Huttlinger model, which is a OM cutaway made of mahogany, and working on a customer repair here. You might note the dull finish in this area. That's from me doing some finish sanding, and you can see there were several cracks here that I'm working on. I have reinforced it from the inside, gluing it up, and now I'm in the process of doing some touch-up to get it all level. Then I'm going to do a little overspray in that area to make sure that I can get it all smooth and shiny and beautiful. That's what's happening on my bench. Let's keep moving. Got to keep moving. So, I actually have a joke first, though, because you might say, where have you been and why are you back? Well, one of the reasons why we're back, because we had an email from one customer. That's right, one customer. Wanted to know where his Facebook Live in the shop was, and it reminds me of a story, a joke probably that Steve told me, about an interaction that Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson had. They're sitting at the table signing autographs, you know, big line of people coming up to them, and they're all adoring fans. And the next woman comes up in line, and she comes up to Chris, and she said, "Oh my God, this is an amazing moment for me. I'm a huge fan, and I just love your singing. I think you're the best country singer that ever was. Love your singing." And Johnny leans into Chris while he's signing the autograph and says, "Well, there's one." Cue the applause. Oh. Yeah. All right, there's one, just like the email. Speaking of one,
there's one.
Here's Steve working on a banjo.
Yeah.
How's that? What do you got here, Steve? A nice ohm banjo.
Get it while you can.
Yeah.
We're installing a pickup on this lovely ohm banjo for our friend Dave from Frontier Records.
Oh, nice.
And so we put a Fishman in there so you can plug and play and get out there and take it down.
If it wasn't loud enough. Amen, brother. Ohm banjo. But Dave from Frontier Records, sound nice.
Yeah, our friend.
Yep. Hey, we get the opportunity to help a wide range of customers, from touring professionals like Dave from Frontier Ruckus to folks that live around, just having fun who live around the corner. So there you go. Let's see who else can find trapped at their bench. Here's Shell. He didn't escape in time.
No.
Shell Croce.
Hello.
What you doing there, Shell?
I'm just doing a quick restring on a Tenor Banjo.
Oh, see?
Nothing
we got
fancy.
the range. But of course,
Nothing fancy.
banjos are our life. That was one thing that Stan Werbin said to Steve Olson back when he was learning to set up banjos. No, he said, "Repeat after me. Banjos are my life." And that's what we still say. That's still our mantra. So there we had a beautiful 5-string working professional instrument, and here we have sort of the other end of the scale. A very basic tenor banjo that's just being brought back to life. It's got a new head on it. Shell's restringing it on the spot for us. Yeah. Many times we can restring an instrument for you if you just show up and walk in. We try to have time to do that at any time. So if you need a restring done, or what we prefer to do, if you need a restring done and you're not able to do it yourself, we would prefer to do it for you, but give you some pointers so you can learn how to do it yourself, because I think it's a key thing for any player to be able to restring their own instrument. Yeah. But we can do it for you when necessary.
Bye-bye.
See you, Shell. Thanks. Here we're at the bench of Scott Gearman, and Scott happens to be off today, but as you can see, he's got something clamped up on his bench here. This is the neck from Martin Guitar. You can see there. I'm guessing. I'm not sure what. I'm guessing this is from a D35. Has binding on the neck, but no volute, like a 35 style instrument had. But he's removed the neck, and one of the things that happens during neck removal, you are introducing heat and moisture to the glue joints, especially this one underneath the fingerboard here, and of course to the dovetail itself. But once the neck is removed, sometimes that heat and moisture and the work that you do to separate the joint with a palette knife such as this, you would work into the joint underneath the sometimes what that does is tends to change the shape, especially of a thinner piece of wood like the fingerboard extension here, which is this part of the fingerboard that hangs out over the body. So sometimes what we do right off the bat is to clamp it up in this situation just to undo any of the changing of the shape of the piece that the heat and moisture does. But that's one thing you could do with this. But in actuality, what Scott's got going here is he has glued a shim underneath that extension. And it is a tapered shim. It has some thickness of a little more than a 32nd, tapered down to almost nothing at this end here. This is a fingerboard extension shim. When you take the neck off to reset the neck, most of the time you're changing the angle of the neck from something like this, that's a big exaggeration, to something like this. Imagining a body parallel out here. And when you do that, when you change that angle back to this fingerboard extension, if you just clamped it down to the neck without doing any changes, or to the body, it would have a pretty big kink right there at the body joint. It would extend down. It is supposed to have a small drop off, but usually what you need to do is to glue a shim, a tapered shim of some sorts, so that fingerboard extension won't drop off so drastically. And that's what he's got going there. He's got his shim glued on there. When he gets back into work tomorrow, he'll be back at that, and he's probably pretty close to being done with the neck reset at that point. Probably got the neck angle changed by cutting the heel, tapering it to 0 right there at that body joint, and then fitting any new shims in the dovetail that need to be done, and then you look at the fingerboard extension. So there's that. And here's Paul Schutzko walking back to his booth. Hey, Paul.
Sorry, I had to...
You were at the counter? No, that's right. At the counter helping a customer out, which is part of the Facebook Live thing. You know, things are happening as we go through.
It's live, people.
It's live. Paul just pulled off this lovely Taylor guitar that he had hanging, and he's in the process of a bridge reglue.
Missing the bridge at this point. It's kind of interesting how they put these on. There's 2 little pins that go through the bridge on the bottom side of the bridge and into the top. This is what it looks like on the bottom of the bridge. And the way they do these at the factory, this just helps to locate precisely where that bridge is going to be on the guitar, so it keeps it from sliding around when they glue it on. This guitar got a little dry. Top changed a little bit, and the bridge started to lift along the back.
So you can see that right there where it lifted,
a little
bit of wood
came
with
up.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the indicator of why it needed to be reglued. Another thing I see is this little lip around here.
Right.
It corresponds to that little lip of finish. What's going on there?
I think they just try to keep the finish from cracking.
Another thing I think is what they're doing here is a lot of manufacturers do that, where instead of like we might do in a full-scale retail bridge reglue, we would remove finish in the exact footprint that the bridge presents there, so we can have 100% wood-to-wood glue contact when we glue the bridge down. A lot of manufacturers would leave a little bit of finish underneath the bridge so that they didn't have to make that time-consuming, delicate cut to the finish to the exact footprint of the bridge, right. And they would leave some under there and glue the remaining 95% of the bridge wood to wood. What Taylor has done is taken another step to making that even more accurate, because when you do that, part of the bridge is glued to the finish. Many times that's where the bridge will start coming loose. That wood to finish glue joint doesn't last nearly as well as the wood to wood. So because of their precise spraying of their finish, they know exactly the thickness of their finish. So then they can take and route a corresponding
There's a little
ledge.
lip or ledge right on the edge of that bridge, and it basically insets this center part of that bridge down into where that groove is that the finish is removed.
So they get a beautiful finish of the bridge to the finish without the risk of and the time to having to carve this into an exact footprint of the bridge, but they still get a really great wood-to-wood fit there also. It's something that Collings, I think, does, and Taylor, and some other
I think
manufacturers.
Martin's starting to do some different things with their bridges now too. So.
Yeah, it's part of the well, just higher technology in instrument building that comes along with computer-controlled routers that make the bridge itself. UV cured finishes that Taylor uses so that the precise thickness of the thickness of the finish can be controlled to a much more precise amount, and then they can combine the two of those things to get, you know, you can see just as Paul just used those pins and set it down on there. It looks pretty good, and it's not glued art yet. You know, it's not totally fit and finished, but
right.
it makes for their gluing procedure to be much quicker in a factory situation, but also very good, much better too.
All right.
Yeah. All right,
Cool.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep, no problem.
See, we got Shell and we got Paul. And we're going to talk to Mike. Oh, he is here. Mike is not at the counter anymore. Now he is. Has his hand
man, I was
inside.
hoping you weren't going to come by while I was doing this.
Well, how about this? You could take this Takamine guitar that you have recently drilled 2 holes in to put 2 potentiometers on, which is a rather unusual application.
And not
for an
necessarily
acoustic guitar.
something that we would do to any guitar. If it's
Yeah.
a valuable guitar,
We would recommend
if
against
this
it.
was a nice guitar, I would have talked the guy out of it, or maybe even refused.
Yeah, maybe even refuse, but
this is
since
a
it's
guy-
a middle of the road Takamine workhorse guitar with a Fishman in the sound hole
Pickup, magnetic.
kind of magnetic pickup. There we go, magnetic pickup, which is similar to an electric guitar pickup. You have a similar to an electric guitar tone and volume control right on the face of the guitar. That was done a lot back in the early '60s when there was a call for pickups for acoustic guitars, but basically the only pickups available were electric guitar, magnetic guitar pickups.
This guy's obviously a big John Lennon fan.
Huh?
Because he was like, I want it like that John Lennon J45.
Yeah, which is like the. Is that the model? Is it a J160E?
Oh, something like that.
I'm not sure of the exact John Lennon model, but it is a J45 style slope shoulder dreadnought guitar with a magnetic pickup at the end of the fingerboard and an electric guitar tone controls. Right.
But if anyone out there is watching and thinks that they want this under their guitar, this doesn't mean I'll do it.
We have the right to, and that brings up an interesting subject where there are a lot of times where customer has a request for us to do something specific to alter the guitar, and we like to advise the customer on whether that's a smart idea as far as the value of the guitar and what kind of return you're going to get. And there are certain guitars that have vintage value, historical value, that we basically we might, even if the customer insists and really wants to do it, there are certain projects that we might not take on like that just because we don't want to. We don't think it's a great idea, even though the customer might, and we would have him find another luthier to do it because we don't want to be associated with something like that because it could turn around on us. For instance, some customer really wants to do it. He likes the guitar for a while. He sells it to somebody else. That somebody else brings it in here, and we say, who did this to your valuable vintage instrument guitar? And they say, oh, well, you guys did. We don't want that to happen. We don't want
I
that
have
person.
no idea what he's talking about.
Right on through. The live aspect. Dave and Shell hustling to the counter to help out a customer. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Let's come over and find out what Johnny's doing. Hey, John.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. You're in the middle of a neck reset, huh?
Yeah, this guy came in the store a little while ago, and he used to work at Gibson when he was like 18 and 19 years
Oh.
old. And he had this strange, it's like
Unusual,
it's like-
I was going to say.
it's a gospel
It's a gospel.
12 string.
So there's the dove with, you know, that designates the gospel aspect of it. It's got some very unique fret markers, these triangle fret
Looks
markers.
like, look at how thick the pearl is in
Wow,
in
it's the
those.
full thickness of the fingerboard.
Isn't that crazy? It's pretty weird.
And this all goes on this maple-bodied 12-string with an adjustable bridge and a tailpiece.
Yeah, it's kind of a
With big, thick black binding.
yeah. So he worked there when he was a teenager, and they built it for him while he was there.
Ah.
It's got his name on the label, and when it was built, it's from '79.
Pretty cool.
So it's kind of
But
cool.
it's not unusual for a guitar, especially a 12-string. Let's see, 79. Let's do some quick math. That is
It's got
what?
a stinger on the back, and
Oh,
it's
it's
got a volute,
A
which is
volute
weird,
and a stinger, which is
and
kind
and,
of
bun-
both.
and heavy tuners. The neck weighs about 3 pounds all by itself.
And it's all way at that end. Heavy, neck heavy. But it's not unusual for any instrument at this age to have moved quite a bit under the string tension to the point where it needs to have its geometry restored with a neck reset, especially a 12-string guitar.
Yeah, and I think he said he had some work done at Gibson in Kalamazoo, you know, after he had bought it, and they did some weird stuff. They had a big shim underneath the extension, and the neck angle wasn't that great. But there is a problem with resetting a neck on a 12-string with a tailpiece
Or any guitar, any flat-top guitar with a tailpiece.
because the one of the crucial things for an acoustic guitar is the angle from the saddle to the tailpiece. But when the tailpiece isn't rigid and stays put, it tends to rise up
It
when
moves.
you raise the saddle up.
It moves with it,
So that the angle
if-
behind the saddle
so if
effectively
this-
ends up staying the same.
Yeah, if this hinge were rigid and it could only go to that point, you could put a saddle height on there that would allow you to be tall enough, well, a saddle height and a neck angle, so you can get good action, but a nice downward push, you know, from that angle. But because this moves, it makes that very difficult, huh?
Yeah, it's So doing a neck reset, it wasn't necessary except for the fact that the extension on this guitar,
Oh, swooped up.
it
from
was
that
so bad. I mean,
Yeah.
and they had this weird shim that didn't go all the way to the. They had a big spruce shim that went under here, and it didn't go all the way to the. So it was like an elevated extension.
Uh-huh.
It was really strange, and the fingerboard kicked way up. And not only that, the neck angle wasn't that great either. But
So we were looking at Scott Gearman's bench and that fingerboard extension shim that he had glued onto there, and so that's another aspect of that I want to sort of revisit. When you have a bad neck angle on a guitar such that the neck is kicked up compared to the body like that, not only does it make the strings very high, and you have to lower the saddle down to its minimum to get decent string length, but that fingerboard has a kink right there. So if you do have a reasonable action, when you get up towards that body joint, say if it's a 14 fret guitar, 12, 13, 10 through 13, playing those notes, they might bottom out on that extension kicked up like there, and you would, even if you had a decent action, you still might have to do a neck reset to do something about that fingerboard end being kicked up.
so it's kind of an interesting guitar. I'm hoping it sounds good.
Yeah, I'll bet it will. Thank you, John.
No
I
problem.
appreciate that. So let's circle back to my bench here. And I think that completes our first Facebook in the shop live in a few months here. So appreciate y'all tuning in. Again, our goal is every other Thursday at 3 o'clock. Keep in mind that anything that I say about the future and timing of Facebook Live and all that, it's subject to change because of the realities. As you can see, pretty busy place here in the shop many times, and so sometimes my ability to predict the future and obviously our main thing that we're looking to do here is to fix guitars and appraise guitars and sell guitars, and we don't let Facebook Live get in the way of that every once in a while. So, but that's why I call it a goal. Another goal of ours is to provide content for you that you're interested in. Shop tours is going to be a big part of this. Another thing that we would like to do is to have some roundtable repair discussions. Have a small group of the repair people here sit down and talk about a specific topic. We're going to provide some of our own topics from what we know that people are interested in, but this is where you guys come in. We would really love it to hear from you about what you might be interested in as far as seeing something, but more specifically, some subjects for that roundtable discussion. If you got any ideas, something you just want to, you're wondering about why we do something the way we do, or you just want to hear some repair guys yak about anything to do with repair, appraisal, or specifically specific instruments, or you just have you'd like to see, one of the things we've done is if we happen to have a really interesting conglomeration of one type of instrument. One time we grabbed all of our Gibson harp guitars. We had 5 of them at one time. Pulled them all out and just looked at them and talked about them. That would be another great idea. If you have a specific instrument that you like, we can, many times here at Elderly Instruments, we have the luxury of having multiples of a number of unique vintage instruments. And we can pull whatever we've got together out and look at a few samples and just talk about them in general. Another great idea. But anyhow, we need your ideas. So please get them to us on Facebook and share and like us on Facebook, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks.